afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Step right into the glow of the wireless, where the night's hum with secrets and swing. The city's purring, the coffee's hot, and your host's cocktails lined up slicker than a fresh pair of wingtips. So pull up a chair, light that cigarette, and let's let the night do the talking. The broadcast begins right here and right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are actually changing it up a little bit from the SAP world to back to our normal broadcast of the haunt of the regular cryptic frights. Let's see, there was one story. There's two stories we got to that tonight. One of Bigfoot and one of alien encounter. I remember them, so I know nothing of them. Well, at least I don't know how they go. So, since we are kind of short on time, because mostly due to IRL stuff that has been keeping me busy. We're gonna jump right into it, starting off with Bigfoot. This is a first-person encounter, but of course anonymously, so we don't really know who's from. I don't know where to start, except with the trees. The forest stretches forever out here, miles of pine ever. Older than anyone living, with roots tangled like the vines of the earth itself. You think you know what quiet is, but you know, not till you've been here alone under a canopy, so thick that even sunlight hesitates to reach the ground. We came out to the Cascades in late September. I wasn't looking for trouble, I was looking for adventure. For a story I could tell back home. My friend, Keller and Marcy. They were thrill seekers, always on the hunt for legends. The locals had whispered about him for decades. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a hairy man of the mountains. But like everyone else, we laughed it off. Stories for drug hunters and nothing more. We set out before dawn. The air smelled damp and bitter. The kind of cold that seeps into your lungs and settles in your chest. We had our packs, a tent, sleeping bags, and cameras. Not that anyone expected to find anything worth filming. I laughed at the thought, though. The first day was ordinary. We hiked along narrow trails, snapped pictures of the mist curling between the trees, joked about bears and ghosts. At night, the forest was alive with sounds. Owls rustling leaves and distant creek hurtling. Nothing unusual, of course. But by the second day, I noticed something odd. A break in the tree line, and there, a shadow moving. Too tall to be human, and too broad to be a deer. I froze my camera, swung up, but it vanished. As if it had never, as if it was never there. Keller swore it was a trick of the light. A tree bent in the end wind and wanted to believe him. And I wanted to believe him. That night we camped near a ridge overlooking a valley. We built a fire and told ghost stories to keep our minds off the shadows we'd seen that afternoon. The woods were quiet at first. Around midnight, there was a sound. Heavy, deliberate footfalls just beyond the firelight. Not deer, not hell. Something that weighed more than a man, with steps that pressed into the earth. When I shone with the flashlight to the trees, the beam caught it. Just for a second. And I will never forget that moment. A hulking shape, hair blacker than the shadows themselves, standing upright, eyes glinting with faintly in the light. Then it vanished. We didn't sleep much after that. The sound of breaking branches, low growls, and heavy breathing lingered just at the edge of the firelight. Day 3, we tried to convince ourselves to hike further, deeper to the forest. I brought binoculars, cameras, hoping to catch just something, anything. A glimpse of a trace of any kind. was a little different. The dirt seemed pressed down in odd places. Not like human, not bear. They looked like footprints. They were enormous, the length of a man's leg, with toes wide and splayed. I knelt down, brushing the dirt from the edges. The sore outside was compacted. Like the weight had pressed down on it for decades, but the prints were fresh. By midday, the tensions had thickened. We kept hearing movement, something following us, but always staying just beyond sight. A branch snapping here, a deep ground there, the occasional whoosh of air, as though something enormous had passed just behind us. We tried to reason. Maybe it was a moose, maybe a bear? But nothing matches the way it moved. Air is lumber, moose run. This thing, though, it was stalking us. By the fourth day, I was alone. Howard had wandered off after panicking since he'd gone to mark a trail, and Marcy was gone when I woke. I had throbbed, and my gut told me something had happened overnight. I followed the trail deeper into the forest, calling their name, hoping it was a prank. But the signs were unmistakable. The footprints multiplied, branches snapped above me, and then I heard it. Not a growl, not a snarl. Something else. A low, mournful call. It was a sound I could describe. More like a human scream twisted through a throat twice its size, echoing, reverberating off the trees. My skin crawled as I froze in place. Then I saw it. Standing at the edge of the clearing, silhouetted against the morning mist, his head tilted, observing me, massive shoulders hunched. He stepped closer, and every football pressed into the soil like a hammer. I raised my camera to get a picture, but the shutter never clicked. My hands trembled. The figure moved faster than it should have. It was too close. I ran. I ran for hours. Branches tore at my face, roots tangled my feet, and every sound behind me made me stumble. But nothing caught me. Or so I thought. By the time I stopped to catch my breath near-stream, I noticed something. The footprints had stopped. They had followed me across the soil, through the brush. When I looked back, the clearing was empty. No figure, no shadow. But prints ended abruptly, then stride. That night I found a safe clearing to make camp. I was exhausted, soaked with sweat, and trembling uncontrollably. I tried to sleep, but the forest had other plans. Around 2 a.m. I heard the leaves rustling again, but this time it was different. No footsteps. A breath. Deep, wet, echoing through the trees. Something large was circling my camp. My flashlight barely penetrated the darkness, and the beam illuminated nothing. Just the outlines of trees. But somehow I felt it through them, watching. Then I saw it. Saw its eyes. They were red, glowing faintly. It just stared at me for hours. I couldn't sleep, couldn't move. My mind raced with every story I've ever heard. All the warnings, all the legends, none of them prepared me for this. Day 6, I realized something worse than being chased. I was being followed. No matter where I went, I kept kept seeing signs of it, broken branches, and some footprints in the mud. Places of black fur disappearing behind trees. It didn't attack, not yet at least. But it watched. Every step I took, every time I tried to hide, it was there. And then I started hearing things in the trees. Low brutal growls that seemed to shift in tone. Like a conversation that wasn't meant to hear. Whispers of boomhead rustling just beyond my peripheral vision. I stopped trying to take pictures. I stopped trying to rationalize. I just wanted out. By day 7, I was delirious. Hunger, fear, and exhaustion took their toll. My map for useless. The forest looked the same in every direction. I couldn't tell from north from south. And every time I thought I recognized the trail, I would find myself back at the same clearing. After a while, I stumbled into an abandoned hunting cabin. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, old furniture covered in dust, spider webs draping the corners like funeral shrouds. But the floor was stained. Not blood, not quite, but dark and soot. Footprints. Enormous footprints leading to the corner of the room. I won't lie. I almost passed out. The figure that stood in the corner stood upright. For black as night, muscles coiled like spring ready to snap. Its face was obscured by the shadowy darkness. Its eyes, the red eyes burned through me. It tilted its head, sniffed the air, and made a sound that was somewhat between a groan and a whisper. I felt my body freeze. I couldn't run, couldn't scream, couldn't aim to breathe. Then it moved. I bolted out of the cabin and through the trees, crashing through branches, tearing through underbrush. I never looked back. Every step was driven by a single thought. Get out alive. I stumbled into a logging road by nightfall. Exhausted, bleeding from scratches, covered in mud. I flagged down a truck. The driver stared at me like I was insane. He said he hadn't seen anyone for in hours. I made it to the nearest town, barely coherent, telling anyone who would listen about the black creature following me. Bus laughed and called to authorities. I didn't care. I wasn't coming back. I left everything behind. My gear, my camera, apps. I can't go near those woods again. It's been weeks since that day. I tried to tell my story. To warn people. No one listens. They call me crazy. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. Sometimes at night I hear it. Not in the forest. On my drinks. But in my yard. That's a weird way of ending it, but that was creepy, I have to admit. Yeah, with the whole Bigfoot stuff, it's all entertainment. One way or another, it's all entertainment. I enjoy it. It's just, this one was creepy, but it wasn't fully creepy because so far from a lot, besides that one story we had a couple broadcasts ago, where it actually attacked the group of people, these ones are just not as scary as that one was, because, well, they got attacked. But, anyways, we are down halfway through the broadcast. So we're just going to jump right into the next one. I don't really have much else to say about the Bigfoot besides it was entertaining. But this one will be an alien encounter. Again, anonymous source. I don't know who it is from, and at least it shows where it's at. It's in New Mexico. I spent my life staring at the stars, growing up in the high deserts of New Mexico. You get used to seeing things others don't. Shooting stars, strange lights, mirages on the horizon. People dismiss it all. Call it atmospheric trickery. Well, I've always known there's something more out there. was late October. Cold, dry wind cutting across the plains. Under a sky so clear you could see the entire galaxy if you looked long enough. My work required me to drive out here alone to check the old weather monitoring stations scattered across the desert. Oh, so these are that way. Okay, that's actually cool. I don't think we've had a story about these ones yet. Because I do remember there was a fun game about that where of the weather station. Well, probably not exactly that one, but there was the satellite dishes on the desert. I don't usually like being out at night. There's something about the silence that presses against you. Thick and heavy. But that night, I had no choice. I didn't know what was waiting. I was halfway to Station 7 when I noticed the light. At first I thought it was, distant traffic. But the desert was empty. Nothing moves out here after sunset. But the light hovered, pulsing in slow beats. Red, green, then a soft blue. It didn't behave like any plane helicopter was around. I slowed my truck. My stomach nodded. The light came closer. But that's when I realized it was following me. By the time I reached the clearing near Station 7, the object was hovering directly above the ground. No noise, no engine hum. Just the eerie glow illuminating the desert floor. I wanted to turn back. My hand shook on the wheel. My radio crackled, but there was nothing on the other end. This static, thick and heavy. I stepped out. My boots sank into the sand. The rain cut at my jacket. But the light didn't flick. Then I saw it. Or them. Two figures standing beneath the light. Tall. Thin. Their skin pale, almost translucent, but no discernible features besides enormous black eyes. They didn't move like humans. They glided. Subtle shifts in position, but no joints or no sound, nothing. I froze. My camera hung from my neck unused. I wanted to take a picture, and I also wanted to run. My body refused to do both. The taller of the two raised what I could only describe an arm. Long, delicate, 3 fingers tipped with some metallic shining faintly in the light. And then, a sound. Not from them, not exactly. It was in my head. A whisper, like 1,000 voices speaking at once, coherent yet indecipherable. A rhythm? Cadence? I don't know if I'm saying that word right, so, I do apologize. I stumbled back to the truck, parked hammering, the figures glided toward me. But not fast, but neither slow. Each step I took, they mirrored. Each blink, each breath, they matched. And then the world changed. The light from the craft enveloped me. Warm, but not comforting. It pressed against my skin, into my eyes, into my mind. Memories flooded. Places I'd never been, voices I'd never heard. Visions of stars spinning, planets colliding, worlds burning and being born. I tried to scream. My voice failed. They extended their hands, the long fingers passing through the truck door like it was there. They didn't touch me, not physically, but I felt their presence. Thoughts entered my mind, images, ideas, fears. They want me to understand. Or maybe they want me to fear. fell to the ground, my knees digging into the sand. The crash rose slightly, and with it, the light intensified. The shadows of the desert stretched unnaturally long, twisting toward the horizon. I looked up and saw more. Not just two, not three, but dozens of figures standing in perfect symmetry around the craft, all watching me. The whispers grew louder, sharper, pressing into my skull. I realized they were communicating, but not with words, with feelings, emotions, raw information. They showed me history of Earth, of human civilization. They showed me mistakes, wars, destruction, greed, and then warnings. I don't know if I can describe how I felt. Not terror, exactly. Not curiosity. Something beyond emotion, like my soul had been split open and cataloged. Then one of them moved closer, his face tilted down toward me. I could see the emptiness in those black eyes and possible death. I closed my eyes out of fear, but I opened. Everything had changed. The craft was gone, the figures were gone. The desert was silent again, the wind gentle. My truck was still running, but the gauges fluttered like static. My camera was gone. My watch stopped at 3:14 a.m. I stumbled to the nearest highway, flagged down a passing trucker, told him to drive me to town. For days I tried to make sense of it. My notes, my sketches, my recordings, everything disappeared. Like it never existed. Friends called me paranoid. The doctor said I was experiencing post-traumatic stress. But I knew the truth. Something had contacted me that day. Something from the stars. Something intelligent and something ancient. Weeks later, I started noticing changes. Dreams at first. The same figures gliding across alien landscape, planets spinning in impossible orbits. Languages I could feel but not understand. Then walking. Shadows moving in my apartment. A whisper on the phone line when no one was there. Lights flickering in patterns that made no sense. And finally, the feeling that I was being watched. Always. I haven't left my apartment alone since. I don't walk at night. I don't look at the stars. But sometimes when the sky is clear and the wind carries faint echoes across the city, I see them just for a second. I know they're still out there, waiting, watching, and one day they'll come back. When that day comes, I don't know if anyone will survive. And that's it for that story. I have to say that was actually pretty creepy on some sort of level. Not as heavily creepy, but it's still creepy because the fact that down into detail that they've left you with some type of knowledge about Earth's history and all that. But I'm hoping one day someone actually has a interesting story of getting attacked. Not that I'm wanting someone to be attacked by them, but it's like, I don't know how to describe. It feels like something's missing from these stories. Hopefully someone's experienced it, and I know it probably will be not. It's like if you can't handle bringing it back up from the past, I understand you don't have to. I'm not forcing anybody to do it. It's just I'm hoping one of these days I find one. And that, my fine dames and dappers, that wraps up tonight's little soiree on the airwaves. The lights are dimming, the jazz is fading, and the moon's taking her final bow. If you had a slow time, don't be a stranger. Swing by again next time for more chatter, charm, and a dash of mystery. Till then, keep your spirits high and your troubled light. This is your host, signing off and tipping the hat. Good night, folks, and may your dreams waltz to the rhythm of the stars.